Good morning, everybody. A warm welcome here from Berlin, from the IFA at the X-Pro booth. I'm Martin Rieger, and I'm happy to tell you something about Hear the Unheard. So make sure you grab yourself a pair of headphones, because I'm going to show you some demos that will showcase 3D audio, because there's so much we can talk about on 3D audio, on VR, about everything. But if you have not experienced it, you will have a hard time to join into the talk. So grab your headphones, welcome to the audience here, welcome to the live stream, and this is the overview of what I'm gonna do with you today, and it looks pretty complex, but we will get there. Like, I thought, okay, we have like degrees of freedom, we have 3D audio, 360 sound, and nobody really understands what it does. So we start fairly simple with what we have with Dolby Atmos and Zoom calls, where you just need a pair of headphones. And from there we will progress to the field of head tracking and virtual reality, and then we end up in the metaverse, and we will find out like how we would use sound in the metaverse, and this is going to be exciting. So hi, I'm Martin, I'm from Munich. I did over 50 VR projects, or XR projects, as we would like to say now. So everything immersive. I started with the film production background, but I was like, okay, this is the future. VR is so immense. There's so much you can do, not with the visuals, but also, of course, with the sound. So I felt like I don't want to do anything else, and this is how I ended up here, basically. So I basically do the recording for VR productions, or like all the immersive productions. I have like all sorts of fancy-looking microphones. Then I also do the post-production in my studio, and then I like to talk about sound. I feel like there are so few people really talking about sound. The sound guys usually are just in the background and doing their job, but I feel like more people should understand why sound is so important, and this is why I'm here, and I hope I can get you excited about what you can even do with 3D audio. So what is this new 3D audio thing? Well, it's, to be simple, it matches our natural listening experience. Right now, I'm not wearing headphones, but I can hear everything three-dimensionally. This happens naturally. We do this all the time. And now, technology-wise, we are able to recreate this experience for every experience we have, for AR, for VR, for films, and whatnot. So now, from a technical point of view, we are at the step of making it natural, like we're used from our habit. And then there's this buzzword, immersive. What does it mean? People also call it immersive audio, and they have a point, because for our brain it's way easier to decode spatial audio, because as I just said, we always listen to sound three-dimensionally, and now we can do this and recreate it with the technology we have. And here's a minor thing that's this is the reason why I would say sound can be more important than the visuals, because we always hear sound, I would say 360 degrees. I could hear what's happening behind me, but I cannot see this. And for all the immersive experiences, this can be a crucial factor to guide the users to an experience and make sure they really understand what we want to show them. And there are many terms, don't get too deep into it. In the English word, we say spatial audio. In the German world, we say 3D audio. And then there is immersive and binaural and everything. But don't focus too much on the wording. It's so new. People really don't understand like what's happening. So let me guide you from here. So there are two ways to listen to 3D audio. And one thing is loudspeakers. And this has been a thing for, I don't know, more than a decade probably, that you would buy multiple loudspeakers and put them everywhere in your room. But as you can tell, this is a lot of money to spend and a lot of cables to put through your living room. So I'm much more a fan of headphones. And people think that they need some special sort of headphones, but I can prove you that a normal pair of headphones will do for today when done right. And then, of course, you can also use this binaural sound for VR headset and AR glasses. So let's focus more on the headphone part, because as you can tell, who has more than 10 loudspeakers at home? Yeah, probably just myself, but that's not the point. But we will get there. So one thing that will happen in the future, or is already happening in the living room, are soundbars. And as you can probably here see, it's a dark image, but there's like a little black soundbar. It's pretty small, lying under the TV. And even though it's so small, it has multiple speakers built inside. And what it does is basically fire the sound to the walls or to the ceiling, so that you would be enveloped by sound. So the sound is not only coming from the front, it's also coming from the side and from the back and from the top, even to give you this immersive experience where sound is coming from all the direction. And I was surprised how good they are, fairly. I mean, it's still a little way to go, but what they do is do some sweeps and measure your room so that they know where the walls inside of your room are, so that it can fire all the way around. So we are getting to the thing that you don't need multiple loudspeakers. You basically buy one speaker and it still gives you 3D audio, which is pretty cool. But let's talk a little bit about Dolby Atmos. I'm not sure, do you know Dolby Atmos? Have you heard about the term? I see people nodding here. Yeah, and I don't want to talk too bad about them, because what they do is a really good job in marketing, but the technology is good for films. But now they try to use Dolby Atmos also for games and Dolby Atmos for music, but it doesn't really make sense most of the time. I mean, they raise awareness for the sound, and people want to have this Dolby Atmos badge at the cinema, and cinemas, they pay a lot of money to get this badge so that they are certified studios. But in the end, it's a marketing term. And I remember I had like my Samsung Galaxy S10 smartphone. There also was like a Dolby Atmos button, but it didn't really do anything. All it did was make the sound louder, but it wasn't 3D. So you really have to be careful that Dolby Atmos doesn't necessarily mean you have 3D audio. It's basically just a label to show you, okay, we have some processing, but we don't really tell you like what is even happening with your phone. So let's not talk too much about Dolby Atmos. If you want, you can read more about it. I also run a blog where where more the detailed nerdy information. But what really got me hooked is the thing that you can experience 3D audio with plain normal headphones, right? People try to sell you special sort of 3D audio headphones, but it really just needs a normal pair of headphones. And I have some demos that I will show you. Because right now the music industry is also realizing, okay, this 3D audio could be the next thing to make people pay for sound. Because right now people just pay $10 per month and they have an unlimited access to sound. But how would it be if we have some premium sort of 3D audio mixes where you would hear a singer, Lady Gaga, whoever, singing around you inside of a room, and how would this sound like? And Apple Music is already adopting it strongly, also Amazon Music, so all the big players are already in the game except Spotify, and it's just a matter of time until they will also jump onto this train. And I'm not a big fan of making music 3D because I like to say stereo's not broken. I mean, stereo's still legit, right? But there are use cases where it makes sense to use 3D audio. And I'm not sure about 3D music, but people are just learning to use 3D audio. I mean, remember back then when the Beatles, for example, did their first production from mono to stereo, when the band was all on the left and the singer was all on the right. And it's like from a perspective today, it doesn't make any sense. But this is at the situation we have right now, that people don't really know how to mix 3D audio because it's such a new topic. And this is something that happened because people didn't really know how to deal with 3D audio. And have you heard about 8D audio? Okay, this is a thing. I mean, people here don't really know about this, but in the future, but in the internet is always ahead, right? It has like multiple millions of views, and if you go to YouTube and just type in 8D audio, you will see such videos with millions of views, and it's mind-blowing. And long story short, let's just have a listen to it, how 8D audio sounds like. And this is what's happening. Oh, sorry. There we go. So So what the hell was that? This is 8D audio. Basically somebody put music into such a 3D audio spatializer and made it rotate around your head. And from an engineering perspective, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you do that? But it just proves that people love this. And to be fair, it kind of works nice. I mean, probably you all had the feeling of music somehow rotating around your head. It doesn't really make sense from a content point of view, but as you can tell, it works. And we should think about, okay, now we have this 8D thing. Like, how can we use it for productions that even make sense? So and it just shows that millions of people really want to hear sound in 3D audio, basically. They just don't know it's 3D audio, basically. That's why they came up with 8D for some odd reasons. So I was thinking, what can we learn from what I just showed you? I mean, 8D doesn't make sense, but how can we make sense of it? And most people use 3D audio just to be innovative. And there are already some radio dramas, for example, die 3 Fragezeichen or Dark Audio Moments. And I think it's great that they try to do something in 3D, but if you listen to the experience, what's happening that people just randomly walk around your head and you don't really know what's happening or why is this even happening. So as mentioned, we are not really at the point where people understand like what can we use with 3D and they try to mess around with the tools, but in the end I'm saying, hey, this would have probably worked in stereo, so why did you put so much effort in it for an experience that would have worked otherwise? So yeah, we have random sound objects moving all around your head. Doesn't really make sense. And what I really don't like about most productions that they just record in a studio, right? And if actors go into a studio, they perform for the studio. And even though they are professional voice actors, it still sounds to me that it's a bit odd. If you try to recreate a scene that's happening in a train, for example, and you record it in a studio and then you just add some ambience of a train, it doesn't really work. And this is why I'm a huge fan of giving the storytelling a purpose. Like, why are you even using 3D audio? And this is why I try to create stories that really make sense in 3D. And maybe I just talk bullshit because you can have a listen for yourself and listen to an experience that I did last year for BKW Engineering, which is in the DACH region, a engineering group, obviously. And they had a live stream. And due to Corona, the whole event, was then a hybrid event, and I produced a 3D sound experience. And I just let you listen. It's a 7-minute piece where we will just listen to the first minute, and this is how it sounds like. Ja, Sekunde. Lass mich noch den Soundcheck machen. Jetzt müsstet ihr mich nämlich rechts hören. Jetzt bin ich zu eurer Linken. Und jetzt bin ich ganz nah dran. Ja? Prinzip verstanden? Dann, los geht's. So Leute, jetzt bitte lauschen und genießen. Was meint ihr, wo wir hier sind? Der Horn ist einfach am schönsten. Servus Huber!
Ehre!
Berge, das frische Gras, der Blumenduft.
Wie sollen ihr bitte deine Leute das sehen oder riechen?
Falls ihr den Huber nicht verstanden habt, er glaubt, ihr könnt mit Blumen nichts anfangen. Aber wenn er seine Maschine ausmachen würde, dann könntet ihr sie zumindest hören.
Achso, ja, Entschuldigung. Bin schon still.
Danke dir. Und den Rest macht unser Gehirn von ganz allein. Huber, nein! Keine Angst, die Biene tut dir nichts. Das sind nur unsere Ohren, die dein Hirn austricksen. Aber faszinierend, wozu unser Gehirn fähig ist, oder?
Okay, just to give you a small preview of what fun things you can do and even get paid. And if you want to watch the whole thing, there's even like an interview with Hazel Brugger, who had to ask me questions on 3D audio. So if you want to check a 5-minute interviews of Hazel Brugger asking questions about 3D audio, this would be the place to be. And there's also the full experience. So what I did in this experience here is to think about all the values that are important for the client, like innovation, sustainability, like all the buzzwords you want to have, and put it into one experience, and to make it a fun experience. And this is what we ended up with. And I also recorded everything outside, for example, to really get you the feeling of being outside and being at a new place. And this is what really works with 3D audio, to travel new places. And if you want to make it authentic, this would be the trick. And of course, it wants some award-winning stuff and whatever. So you can also do that in the context of not only sound-only experiences, but do it with videos. And this is what I also did in the last years, in the sense of, if you want sound to strive, you have to think differently with the video. And most of the time, people do an amazing video and then they try to throw 3D audio onto it. But this is what wouldn't really work too much. So I ended up with a project called Sounds of Germany, where I told the camera guy how he should film in order to make the sound really work. And what I ended up with is a concept that was filmed, for example, in the first person. And I can talk so much about it, but let's just have a listen of what we ended up with. And this is the Insta story from the whole experience. So just a little snippet to get you excited. The whole video is like 2 minutes long, so make sure to check it out. And this was like a new step to think about, okay, we have tourism and we all know those glossy images and drone shots and a sunrise and whatnot. But how can we make people excited about cities, about traveling with sound? And this is the whole project we ended up with. And in order to make 3D audio work, we really had to think the other way around and not film something nice and then put sound of it, but think about sound first, like what are exciting sounds that we could record, and then think of, okay, but how should the visuals look like? And this is how we ended up with this concept. So, long story short, the conclusion for everything you heard on 3D audio for headphones is what I showed you just with 3D audio, with 8D audio, that people are really excited about 3D sound. They really want to listen to something, but they don't really know what makes sense and what would be fun experience to listen to. And there's hardly any content out there that was produced for 3D audio. And the storytelling hardly makes any sense from what I heard so far. And you need to consider sound holistically. Most of the time when people ask sound guys, they already have a final concept and they just ask the sound guys, for example, for the recording or maybe for the post-production because they already recorded anything. But what I try to do is to go into the project as early as possible so that I can really unleash the full potential of sound, because there are so many things that you can solve in such a project with the sound. People think, oh, they have to film this and film that, and I'm like, yeah, maybe you can just use a voiceover and then explain people what's happening, for example. And this is why it makes so much sense to have somebody from the sound department on board even before you record something. And this is what I do with my business, basically. So let's jump on into the world of 3 degrees of freedom. What are 3 degrees of freedom? Super simple, basically. You can rotate your head up, down, left, right, and you could also tilt your head if you want to do that. And this is where we end up in the world of 360 videos or headphones with head tracking, which we also have here at the IFA, at the Yamaha booth, for example, if you want to check them out. So there are so many possibilities, and this is why I decided I don't want to do anything else, because suddenly you have potential with sound like never before. For example, you can guide the viewers. I like to say you can overlook a visual element, but not a sound element. As I just said, you can hear what's behind you, but you cannot see that. And in VR, this is crucial to make people understand, like, oh, where should they look at? And this is the biggest fear of everybody who's working in the VR field, that people just look elsewhere and just don't see like where the action is happening, and then afterwards they just didn't have a pleasant experience. But with sound, you can easily guide the viewers and make them understand, oh, I hear steps somewhere, maybe there's a person coming, and then you see a person and hear a person, and the person is talking to you, and then it makes so much more sense. And this is what you can solve with sound, and this is exciting. So the biggest mistake that I see people doing is trying to recreate reality. Feel free to grab a pair of headphones, otherwise I can't talk so loud. Okay. People try to recreate reality, but let's face it, reality is sometimes pretty disappointing, especially for the sound. I mean, right now, the acoustics is okay, but we have people walking around here. It's sort of noisy, right? This is certainly what we don't want to have in a VR experience. This is why I say we have to create some sort of hyper-realism, where people would understand what's happening in the scene, but it would also feel natural. But as mentioned, it's not the key to make it realistic. And then again, I can't talk enough about storytelling. You have multiple layers to work with sound. You have you can explain people. Okay, there are people walking inside of your scene. But if there is a narrator, the person in your head would explain you. You would understand. Hey, there's a person not in the room, but a person talking to you. And we have to get deeper into this in the next presentation. But what I want to say, there are so many layers of how you can use sound. You can use sound for sound effects. You can use sound with music. You can use sound with voices. And each one of them really adds value to the overall experience. And what people hardly know, that Facebook and YouTube, they enable this sort of spatial audio since 2016. So this is not really a new topic, but this is, I started doing a spatial audio back then. And so it's accessible because people usually think, oh, I can't use the spatial sound, and I can show you how this sounds like. So this would be my next demo, where I guide you through how does 360 sound even sound like, and what's the process, and what do I even apply in terms of effects and sounds. And this is how it sounds like. It's in German, but you will get the idea that I show you the before sound, like the raw recording, and then afterwards I will show you how I mixed it and how I added sound effects, and this is how it sounds like.
Als Ausgangsmaterial passiert erstmal nicht viel, aber die spannende Frage ist, wie klang das eigentlich im Original? Nämlich so.
Schaut einmal, hinten im Eck die Herreninsel mit dem Rosengarten, die Sonne, die gerade perfekt untergeht.
Man kann seinen Blick drehen, aber der Ton dreht sich leider nicht schön mit. Dann hören wir uns doch mal das finale Ergebnis an, also die fertige Mischung.
Servus, und ich bin der Flo von der Mama Bavaria. Kommt's mit, wir laden euch auf eine Sonnenuntergangstour am Chiemsee ein. Schaut einmal, hinten im Eck die Herreninsel mit dem Rosengarten, die Sonne, die gerade perfekt untergeht. Auf der linken Seite die Krautinsel. Genießt einfach mal die Stimmung.
Was passiert, wenn wir den Sprecher weglassen? Dann kommt nämlich die ganze Atmosphäre von dem See zur Geltung. Da habe ich sehr viele Vögel eingefügt, Grillen zirpen, Wasser plätschern, Meeresrauschen so ein bisschen. Einfach alles, was gut tut, zu erzählen, dass wir da jetzt am Chiemsee sind in der schönen Abendstimmung. Das klingt dann so.
Okay, if you want to watch the whole video, it's also on YouTube. And what you understood is, with the raw recording, you can't even localize where the person is talking, how far the person is talking to you. But with all the spatial audio I did, I added reverb, I added some equalizers and whatnot, so you would understand, oh, there's a person like 2 meters away from me talking to me, but if I move my head, the person is still there and doing his thing. So this is why I really like 360 sound. So you would think, how is this relevant for me? Because it only happens in VR. I don't have a VR headset. You would think, and YouTube, watching with the mouse and do this click thing and watching something, it's not so much fun. I get it. So what's happening right now is that all the big headphone manufacturers, they are adding spatial audio into the headphones. And this is insane. I mean, you have an additional sensor that the system would know where you are looking at. And companies like Apple, Bose, Beats, Yamaha, as I just mentioned, and Ray-Ban, they are already putting all the technology into headphones. But the fun thing about this is that people don't really know what to do with it at the moment, because there's not really content out there. But people know, like the companies know that this will be a huge thing in the future, so they already integrate all the sensor without really knowing like what to do with it. But in the next few years, like by software update or by adding content, they can make use of it. And this will be crucial for everything that's related to augmented reality. And if you want to check out like which headphones already have this implemented, feel free to watch my homepage. So long story short, there will soon be more headphones with head tracking on the market than VR headsets. And because right now what Apple is doing is building this technology called spatial audio into every pair of headphones. And we all know how many millions of headphones Apple is selling. So it's not just for the AirPod Max or the Pro, even like the little AirPods now have head tracking enabled. And we don't really know what to do with that at the moment. All we can listen to is, for example, we can watch films, and then you would watch your screen and you would hear, okay, the voice is still coming from the screen, and you would have some sort of cinema experience like we know it, that's the airplane is flying from the back to the front, and it works pretty nice. This is what's happening with Dolby Atmos, and this is fun. And I would say this is an interesting use case if you want to have a cinema experience but just have headphones, and this is what you can do with it. Then we have, as I just mentioned, this music thing where I'm not sure like where's this going. We use the technology, but does it even make sense? I'm not sure too much. Then we have this audio dramas that I just mentioned. There hardly is any useful content, but what really makes sense at the moment is to use spatial audio not only for the content, but use it for communication and for navigation. And what I really like about the navigation, we all notice when we are in the subway and we go up and then our navigation says, now turn left. And you are like, yeah, but which left? And then you put out your phone and you still don't know like where's the arrow pointing at. But if you have spatial audio, the smartphone would know where you are looking at. And this is the main problem with GPS, that the smartphone has to guess where you are at the moment. But imagine there's a voice telling you from the left, hey, you should move left, and then you move your head to the front, and then the voice is coming from the front, and you don't even have to put out your smartphone again. You can just be guided with like a magical voice that is telling you where you should go. And this is what you could use with spatial audio, right? Everybody understood? Nice. So the next generation headphones, they will be even smarter, not just with head tracking, but also they will measure like your bio data. They can measure your temperature in the ears, for example. They can measure your EEG data, like your brain waves. So what we can say that all the smartwatches will somehow move to your ears, because in your ears you can just measure way more data. And we all know that people sometimes they don't put out the earbuds. They just run around with earbuds all the time. And this is how we are transitioning in. And this is what I mean with augmented reality and diminished reality, that you can create your own personal sound bubble as you wish. If you want to block out everything, feel free. If you still want to let in, I don't know, other people, you could also do that in the future. And there are so many smart AI algorithms that can filter out voices, then they're like really good. So this is what's happening in the future. So you solved a level 2 3D audio, really important for 360 videos or everything related to head tracking. And stereo can sometimes even be confusing because people just don't know who's talking to me in the experience. But sometimes stereo still is the better thing. So the trick is to combine stereo and spatial audio. I don't say make everything spatial audio. I say make everything spatial audio where it makes sense. And head tracking is built into like every new pair of headphones at the moment, and people don't really know about it because there is hardly any content. And yeah, but this will be exciting in the future. Now, I have like 5 minutes left to get you through the metaverse, so I will probably just skip some things and tell you more about how it will sound like. And let me just skip this. So what's the metaverse? I mean, have you heard about the term? Probably yes, because otherwise I would be surprised. And from the VR scene, we think about it like social VR. I mean, I had my experience with the metaverse like 2 years ago when there was a lockdown, but there was a virtual conference, and I was like, why would I use VR to meet people? I could just go outside and meet people, right? But suddenly there was a demand to meet people virtually, and I can tell like I have been in VR for 2 hours straight like never before. Like usually after 1 hour, I'm like, nah, VR good for today. But I was talking to people like here, meeting a friend. I mean, it looks stupid. It looks like Sims from 10 years ago. Like the graphics are not so good. But what makes it exciting is the interaction with the people. So I'm always seeing a red light. So if you want to know more about how spatial audio can be used in communication, feel free to watch my homepage. And can I still watch one video? Probably not. But if you want to watch the video, just go, I can do that? Okay. Oh, thank you so much. I have some extra time, so this will be my last demo to show you how spatial audio can be used in the metaverse.
I was just talking to Chris about Atmos Spatial Audio SDK.
Yes, seems like it even works in the browser.
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
They even made an interactive demo.
Fresh.
Shall we jump in?
Definitely. Can you send me an invite?
Okay, you probably get the idea. This is like a very minimalistic way of using spatial audio inside of a browser. My friends, shout out to Atmoki who are doing this. And you understand that communication gets so much easy when you can really see, okay, there's a person talking on the left and on the right, and this is the reason why Zoom calls at the moment are so annoying, because everybody's in the middle, and we try to recreate a natural listening experience, and in reality, everybody's not sitting in front of you, but spreading around you, and this is what you can do with spatial audio. And the gamers are already one step ahead. They have been using 3D sound for ages. They know it's important to know where the enemy is behind you, and you would listen to the sounds. This is why they are spending so much money on surround headphones and stuff. So to make spatial audio work, you really have to think about sound not after the visuals, but try to put sound into your process for a production as early as possible. And you have to try to find the bridges between technology and creativity, because I see technology manufacturers like putting out great technology, but they don't really know what to do with it. And then we have the artsy people who have great ideas, but not the knowledge what to do with how to use the technology. And this is the sweet spot, how we could make a spatial audio work where technology meets creativity, and this is basically what I do. So thanks everybody for standing by, and thank you so much.